That one village like it was Chapai.
What's that?
It was that one village, I think it was in the Middle East, that was like ancient, but it was like it was glassed over. Like
Glassed over?
Yeah, like.
Oh yeah, I'm looking for a, all right. On your book, in your book, those of you who have the book, on page 12. Now, about the glass, that's very important because is glassed over, but there's several places where it looked like cities were destroyed by what today we call an atomic bomb. But if you look at page 12, there's a very famous poem there. Folks, this is one of the most famous original documents from the ancient world. I want to read it to you. Is destroyed. Bitter is its lament. The country's blood now fills holes like hot bronze in a mold. Bodies dissolve like fat in the sun. Our temple is destroyed. Our gods have abandoned us. Like migrating birds, they've taken off and flown in. They've abandoned my bird. Smoke lies on our city like a shroud. Now you may all know that when an atomic bomb goes off, the smoke creates a mushroom cloud. The ancient Sumerians believed that their gods had the power to fly, master of those who fly. It's like this blast was so bad that even the gods took up flight, took off, and abandoned it. Oh yeah, now, we come to the city of Mohenjo-Daro in India, which we'll talk about later. This is not just Sumerian. The city of Mohenjo-Daro appears to have been destroyed in a nuclear holocaust. Now, of course, I know some of you have been trained, we don't believe that because they did not have nuclear weapons back then. Folk, you don't have to believe it, but they did. Now, I cannot prove to you that gods came from another dimension or another realm or another world and cohabited with earth women and produced a race of hybrids. I can't prove it actually happened, but I can prove that the ancients actually believed that it did. I can't prove to you that a flood came about the earth and destroyed everything except for one family. But the flood story is found all over the globe, everywhere. The Egyptians had a flood story, the Sumerians had a flood story, Gilgamesh gave it. The people of India, China, and in China they even pronounced the man's name the same way the Hebrew Bible from Noah. China has a flood story. Primitive peoples, tribal peoples have passed down the flood story. Again, I can't prove it happened, but I can prove that the ancients all believed it happened. The Greeks said it. Again, we look on these stories as being mythologies. Every ancient society starts its history with stories that we today call myths. Myths are stories that involve gods. The myths gave way to legends. Legends were stories that involve heroes. There's the story of Hercules, and we could call that a legend. Hercules, half god and half man, his father was said to be Zeus. We call these stories legends. Then finally we come to serious history. Now I'm going to jump forward a little bit. The father of history, this is Israel, is said to be Herodotus. Herodotus only lived in 330 BC. Well, why don't they consider any writings before Herodotus history? Because Herodotus was the first historian to leave out most of the ancient mythologies and write what we today can believe. The Greeks were the first persons to begin to question what the ancients told them. But if you look at Greek history, they started their history with stories about men who could turn into a lion, who could turn into a snake. There have been movies made about Thor. Thor had not only the ability to throw a hammer and always come back to him, he also every evening would eat his oxen and then tap the carcass, the bones was left to the ox with a hammer, and he'd come back to life. Do I believe that? Well, what I can show you is the Norsemen, of whom I'm descended, believed it. They considered these mythologies to be serious history. They believed in elves and dwarves and giants. There are rumors about giant bones being found, but somehow those rumors can be substantiated. But bones of elves and dwarves, they have been found. I forget the name that they used. But some of them have been found. Again, folks, this is the way mankind began the story of himself back then. That there had been a beginning, there were the gods, and they came to earth and taught man civilization. And man worked from there. Eventually the gods gave way to demigods, or gods who were half god and half mortal. And eventually the demigods gave way to full humans. This was the pattern that you would find throughout. Again, you can believe what you choose to. The more I read about the mythologies, someone said about the mythologies that they were given to us to where the wise among us could eventually interpret what they mean. And there's a secret meaning that's attached to them that someday some of us might figure out. Again, you can believe what you choose to. All right. Now, a couple of things I already must mention. Some years ago, I've already told you, I've sent $100 to the National Geographic, and they did a study of the DNA. Locate it. Regrettably, I'm afraid I can't, so I have to bring it in next time. All right, right here. All right, DNA, Genographic, National Geographic maps of the human family tree. Some of you, at least one of you, know this. Here they show various types of humanity. Back in 1986, persons working on a human DNA. Now, let me tell you something about DNA. It was discovered in the 1930s. The A in DNA stands for acid. It's just some acid located within the cell. Then we discovered it controls heredity. Then we discovered it can tell us a whole lot about our genealogy, our ancestry. In fact, DNA tests have proven that apparently Thomas Jefferson fathered at least one child by a slave girl, because his slave girl's known descendants carry his DNA. There are persons who say, well, there are 5 people living there, but then again, when you try to get into it deeper, you find that only Thomas Jefferson was with her when all those children were born. All right. Again, how do you know it was Jefferson? Because each of us carry a unique mutation that identify our DNA from the DNA, our family from the DNA of almost everyone else. All right. The DNA test eventually proved, folk, that all human women were descended from one woman. Does anybody have any idea what they call the woman that all human women today are descended from? Anybody know? Lucy. Not Lucy. Lucy isn't. Eve. They call her Eve. I knew somebody said they call her mitochondrial Eve. From this woman named Eve, all females are descended. Now, folk, look it up for yourself. I've looked it up for others. Hey, now I want to tell you something. National Geographic is not a Christian organization. They are as pro-evolution as they come. But they're using their own documents and proving that all human women alive today are descended from. Then they eventually proved, a short time later, that all human men are descended from one man. They call his name Adam. Those names, of course, some of you know, come from a book that's not allowed in our public schools. And I'm not talking about Das Kapital or Mein Kampf. Those books are allowed. But there is a forbidden book from whence these names come. Now, if you look it up, look up mitochondrial Eve, you'll find that there's explanation that somehow or another Eve's descendants were better than other descendants, and her descendants killed off the others, or Also, they're saying that some big disaster hit mankind that wiped out nearly the whole human race. And this genographic will show that Eve lived about 200,000 years ago. Now you can get her closer to modern times if the mutations that make us unique only occur every 1,000 years, then you'd have Eve, the original Eve, living 200,000 years ago. If you put them every third generation, you have the original Eve living about 6,000 years ago. Now, Adam, weirdly enough, was not Eve's husband. He came later. I think all of you by now have heard of a story of a destruction that killed all the human race except for one man, his wife, his sons, and their wives. The flood story, folk, is not only written on clay tablets, it's not only written in the Bible, it's not only handed down in mythology, it's written in the human DNA. The migratory patterns, which is what this study was designed to show the human female DNA. Of course, they have it starting in Africa, and then somehow the woman from her descendant migrated to Mount Ararat. I mean, again, if you want to look at it closer, it's here, and spread all over the globe from Mount Ararat. What do you know about Mount Ararat, if anything? What's that?
Suppose where the boat came to rest.
It's where the boat came to rest. Well, folk, the flood story is written right here.